As you know, if you've been watching this channel for the past couple weeks, I've been reading the Oresteia trilogy by Aeschylus. I read all three plays in the Oresteia trilogy: Agamemnon, the Libation Bearers, and the Eumenides. And after reading each one, I gave a video review after finishing reading it. And if you missed any of them, I'll link to them in the description down below. But I thought it might also be worthwhile to talk about the Oresteia as a whole, because that's how it's presented in this book here. They do divide it up into the different parts, but they have it listed as one play in their 8 plays of Greek and Roman tragedy. They consider it just one play. And I think a lot of publications do this. They consider it as just one whole. So I thought I would try to talk about it as one whole and see what I could come up with to say about it. Now, advance warning on this. First of all, I'm probably going to just largely repeat what I've said in the previous videos. So if you've already watched me talk in the previous videos, you might want to skip this one. Or at least consider skipping it. And 2, I don't really have anything too intelligent to say about this. This is my first time reading these, so I'm still approaching this from a surface level understanding. I don't expect any deep dives on this. I have read the Wikipedia page on it, and I've read the essay that is at the back of this book. Sorry, not the back of the book, but at the back of the trilogy. So I might sprinkle in some of the facts and comments that I gained from that little bit of background research. But other than that, it's just going to be me commenting on the reading experience as somebody who is new to this play. Now, my background here, I'm new to this play. This is my first time reading this play. I've been familiar with the story, however, since I was in 6th grade. 6th grade, I got interested in Greek mythology, read a number of different versions of Greek mythology, like the Introduction to Greek Mythology for Kids, the various different retellings of Greek mythology, Bullfinch's mythology, Edith Hamilton's mythology, you know the ones. And I intended to go and read the original classics, but I never got around to it. I may have even had this book on my shelves at one point as a teenager, but never actually got around to reading the actual plays. I did read the Iliad and the Odyssey, but I never got into the Greek plays at the time. So I was familiar with the background behind this story, but this is my first time reading through all the speeches and the dialogue in the play, etc. So the story, if you're not familiar, and I'll give a brief background of the story. This is Agamemnon, who was the leader of the Greek forces during the Trojan War. Now, after the Trojan War, all the different heroes returned from Troy, and they all, or almost all of them, encountered some sort of disaster on their trip home. The most famous, of course, is Odysseus and his 10-year journey to get home, which is chronicled in the Odyssey. But this is just one of many stories of the problems the Greek heroes had coming home. And in fact, the opening chapter of the Odyssey, right here in Book 1, right on the first page, is all about Zeus and the other gods talking about what happened to Agamemnon and his son Orestes. And it opens up with them talking about this very episode. So, and it pops up actually several times more throughout the book, the reference to Agamemnon being killed and his son Orestes avenging him. So this was obviously a story that was around at least since this time. The Iliad and the Odyssey were, I believe, the 8th century BC. Aeschylus in the Oresteia was in 458. So, what is that? I always get mixed up with BC. Is that 458 BC? Would that be the 4th century BC or the 5th century BC? Anyways, about 400 years afterwards. So the story has obviously been around for a long time, and I read somewhere, I forget where I read this, but I read somewhere that whenever Greeks went to see a play, they always knew what the ending was going to be ahead of time. There were no such thing as a spoiler in Greek drama, because these were all very familiar stories that they had all heard over and over again, and they were just watching a new dramatization of these stories, which may be why there's so much emphasis on long speeches rather than action, because they already know all the action that's going to happen. It may be one of many reasons why that is. So in the first play, this is classical tragedy, so you can expect some unhappy endings. The first play, Agamemnon comes home from the war, and he is murdered in his bathtub by his wife, Clytemnestra, and his wife's lover. How do you pronounce this? Aeschylus. And that ends up the first play. Now, I mentioned I was consulting the Wikipedia page here. Wikipedia page points out something interesting, which I did not talk about when I reviewed Agamemnon, so why not talk about it here? Apparently, the phrase, live by the sword, die by the sword, originates from this play. Maybe. So you've heard the phrase, live by the sword, die by the sword, right? It's from the Gospel of Matthew, when Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane, and Peter pulls out a sword and cuts off one of the soldiers' ears, and Jesus says, Peter, put away your sword, for he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. And that's since become a famous saying. But according to Wikipedia, that phrase actually comes from this play. And when I read that on Wikipedia, I'm like, I don't remember that at all. But I think I found here what that phrase is referring to. So Clytemnestra is talking about her husband Agamemnon, who she has now killed with a sword, and she blames Agamemnon for Iphigenia's death because he sacrificed her to the gods. So she says, Iphigenia still wept for sweet flower, his she-child. And then I believe she's talking to Agamemnon here. Don't go boasting in Hades, steel slinger, a sore brute. You got back your stab wounds, all you inflicted. I think that's the line here. According to Wikipedia, it's been translated into English in a number of different ways. But in some translations into English, it's close to live by the sword, die by the sword. And Wikipedia actually doesn't say whether or not it's suspected that the Gospel of Matthew got this line from here. And I'm not qualified to say. I don't read ancient Greek, so I don't know how closely they resemble each other, or I don't know. It'd be something somebody else would have to weigh in on. But it would be theoretically possible, right? Because this was published about 500 years before the Gospel of Matthew was published. They were both written in Greek. They could have borrowed lines from each other. I don't know. I don't know. If you know anything, let me know. But anyways, that digression aside, we end up the first play with Agamemnon killed, And also Cassandra, who was a captive from the Trojan War that Agamemnon brought home to be his concubine. Cassandra knows she's going to get killed because she has the gift of prophecy, but Apollo has also cursed her so that nobody will believe her prophecies. But we see Clytemnestra standing over the bodies of Agamemnon and Cassandra. Then the second play, which is in this edition called Choephoria. Choephori, I don't know. But usually translated into English as the libation bringers, because we start off at the grave of Agamemnon with Orestes, his son, and Electra, the daughter, bringing in the libations for him. Oh, and the chorus. Something I forgot to mention, actually. The chorus plays a role in these plays. And I had previously thought that the chorus was just a chorus, like a voice that the characters would interact with. But the chorus is actually characters. In the first play, the chorus is the elders of Argos. And they actually get into an argument with Clytemnestra and Aegisthus, which ends with Aegisthus actually getting ready to kill the chorus. So draw your swords out, ready, stand by. Stand by, not one of us here is afraid to die. I'm glad you told me, so go ahead, die. And then Clytemnestra interrupts and saves the chorus. I'm not sure if there are any rules in Greek drama against killing off the chorus as part of the drama. But it looks like we get real close to it, but then pull back at the last minute. Then in the next one, the chorus is the Trojan captives who are there at the grave of Agamemnon and Orestes and Electra. Electra is the daughter of Agamemnon, who is urging on her brother to avenge the father's death. Also, the god Apollo is urging Orestes to avenge his father's death. But there's a catch here. In order for Orestes to avenge his father's death, he's got to kill his mother. So this is a classic conundrum. Either he doesn't kill his mother, and then his father's death goes unavenged, and his father's death going unavenged is like a big deal in the ancient world. You have to avenge your father's death. Or he kills his mother, but then he's guilty of matricide, and that's also a big deal in the ancient world. I guess it would be a big deal anywhere. And either way, he's going to be in some unnatural situation. So after a bunch of people standing around making speeches, Orestes does come in. He kills his mother's lover first, and then kills his mother. And the stage directions here, let me see if I can find them. This is meant to be echoing the earlier play. So a cry from the palace should be identical to the cry of Agamemnon. So drawing the parallels very clearly. And then once both of them are dead, the palace door opens. Orestes stands over the bodies of Clytemnestra and Aegisthus. The tableau repeats the stance of Clytemnestra over Agamemnon and Cassandra. So in the first play, Clytemnestra was standing over the dead bodies of Agamemnon and Cassandra, a man and a woman. In the second play, now Orestes is standing over the bodies of Clytemnestra and Aegisthus, a man and a woman. So the parallelism is very neat there. But then, having killed his mother, he is pursued by the Furies. Now, the Furies are these immortal beings who are charged with avenging blood guilt. In this case, killing your own mother. And again, this is classical tragedy. So, we get another sad ending with two dead bodies and then Orestes being pursued by the Furies. But actually, part 3 has a happy ending of sorts. We can't erase all the terrible things that happened in the first 2 plays. But part 3, nobody dies. Orestes gets absolved. The Furies are cheated of their vengeance, but Athena then convinces the Furies to become the guardians of Athens. And everything is all settled at the end of part 3. I was half expecting part 3 to also have a sad ending, just because this was supposed to be Greek tragedy, right? So I was expecting every part in the tragedy to end in tragedy, but we get everything wrapped up in kind of a happy ending at the end of part 3. So I guess is this a tragedy? I'm maybe not the third part. And I guess that raises the question: if the third part ends on a not tragic note, then can you call any of this a tragedy? I guess if you take the first play and the second play separately, you could say they're a tragedy. But if you take the whole thing and the whole thing ends up with Orestes being redeemed, then is it really fair to call the Oresteia as a whole, the whole trilogy, is that a tragedy? I don't know. Let me know what the definition of tragedy is in the comments down below. Now, there's some different themes going on, and again, I'm indebted to the essay at the end of this play in this collection here, and also to Wikipedia. The vengeance is a reoccurring theme. So in the first play, Clytemnestra is seeking vengeance on Agamemnon because Agamemnon sacrificed their daughter. In the second play, Orestes is seeking vengeance on Clytemnestra because Clytemnestra killed his father, who was also her husband. And in the third play, there's no one left to avenge Clytemnestra, so we have the Furies who are taking their vengeance, because that's just what the Furies do. And then Clytemnestra herself, who shows up as a ghost and is prodding the Furies on. So you're supposed to be Furies and I find you sleeping. When Furies need naps, they're no longer Furies. So wake up, Furies. Get back to avenging my death. But this cycle of vengeance ends when Athena is called upon to intervene by Apollo, and Athena sets up a trial with 12 jurors. And I guess this is just a reminder that the jury system and the 12 jurors is older than Magna Carta. I kind of think trial by jury by peers, that's the Anglo justice system by Magna Carta. But I guess it must, the idea of a trial by 12 jurors goes all the way back to ancient Athens, huh? And this play is attempting to give an origin story for how we got murder trials. So as explained in the essay at the end of this, up until this point, this isn't really real, but up until the establishment of trial by jury, if there was a murder, it would be avenged by the closest bloodkin, the avenger of blood. And then we established murder trials so that people were not getting killed out in the street anymore. Now there was a system for doing things. And this play is, I guess, trying to give a mythic answer to the question of how did the jury trial get established. The idea of orderly justice replacing the vengeance in here. And that is, that is the trilogy. Now, I had mentioned in my early reviews of this, I think when I was the first two plays I reviewed, I mentioned I wasn't quite sure if these were meant to be full separate plays or if they were all put on in one night. But I've been looking around on YouTube, and YouTube has some performances of these plays on YouTube, I guess as you would expect. And it looks like when these are performed live, they're 90 minutes each. So I guess they must have been performed over 3 separate nights. Or I guess possibly it could have been morning, afternoon, and evening. There is in the essay at the back here somebody talking about, where is it? Talking about watching all 3 plays in one day, and then having a dream about flying above a map of the world. I guess you could watch all 3 of them in one day. But they are each a full separate 90-minute play when dramatized. It takes about 90 minutes to read it, which is 90 minutes to read each play, which, considering you're getting a classic work of literature under your belt, 90 minutes is not bad. And I counted all 3 of these separately, as you will have noticed by my reviewing them separately. So these are 3 separate different works of ancient literature that I've now got under my belt. That makes me feel better about myself. Whatever it takes, huh? According to Wikipedia, this is the only extant Greek trilogy we have surviving. Trilogy of plays surviving down to us. But also, according to Wikipedia and the essay in the end, there's actually a 4th part which has been lost to history. We only have like 1 line of it, but and I guess we know what was in it because of summaries by other authors. But the 4th part is like it's a satyr play, which I guess is like some sort of a satirical play about Orestes meeting Menelaus. It's I guess based on book 4 of the Odyssey, the story of Menelaus being stuck out on the island and trying to get home. Menelaus is the brother of Agamemnon, the uncle of Orestes. It's weird to think that there would be some sort of satire play or comedy play rounding out this trilogy, but apparently, what I've been able to glean from Wikipedia, I guess that was the custom. Maybe the Greeks viewed it as part of the catharsis. After you have all these serious plays and all this tragedy and everyone's crying, then you kind of have some sort of laughter to bring back everyone's spirits or kind of round out the emotional experience. I don't know, but it's the essay at the end here says, it's a pity we don't have that, because it would be interesting to see what the full range of intended emotions was. And what more can you say than it is a pity we don't have that, huh? But we don't have it. So we just have the trilogy here of these 3 plays. Now, I mentioned I was searching around on YouTube for these, and I found out actually that the translator who is in this edition, Tony Harrison, his version, and this was originally published in 1982, it says. Okay. Because there's a version which was done for the British television in, I think it was 1982 or 1983, the early 80s, where they directed each play separately and it was shown on television. Uh, sorry, they filmed each play separately. So there's, or actually, sorry, I don't know how they filmed them. Let me back up and try again. This is the problem with doing this unscripted late at night. I have trouble forming my words. They filmed the complete Oresteia, and they broadcast each play separately. So Agamemnon one night, Libation Bearers one night, and the Eumenides one night. And those three performances are on YouTube. They're 90 minutes each. I was watching parts of them just to kind of see what they were like. And the parts I watched made me think I should really watch the whole thing. Because, for one, it's the exact same translation I just read. There do seem to be some minor differences. But for the most part, the same words I just read. But the way the actors are conveying the words is maybe filling them with more meaning than I absorbed just in my once-over reading of this. So I thought to really understand what this play is saying, I should really just watch the dramatization. So I'm going to do that as my project next. Now, it's difficult getting 90 minutes to myself with two kids. But if I watch it at my computer in this room after they go to bed, I can't watch it on the big TV in the main room because that will wake them up. But I can put some headphones on and maybe watch it in this room. And maybe over the course of a few nights, I can watch the whole trilogy. And that's going to be my next project. I'm going to take a break from reading this book and watch the dramatizations of these three plays. I'm not going to review the plays separately because I don't think there would be any point. I've already reviewed reading the plays, each one separately. I'd just be commenting on the same plot points over again. But I'll watch the whole trilogy and then report back on the experience of watching it dramatized after having read it. So that's going to be what I do next. I'm going to take a break from reading this book. I'll come back to it after I've watched the trilogy. And I'm going to go and watch the dramatizations of these three plays.